doctor, I have diabetes.
Water.
Thank you. Okay, I'll get it. Okay. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Hi, thanks. My name is Nancy Chazen. I'm the Executive Director of National Council of Jewish Women here in Louisville. I'm joined by our Senior Committee Chairperson, Sue Paul, and Paul Troy from ElderServe. We are very pleased to be here. We at NCJW have been working with ElderServe for decades now. ElderServe was founded in 1962, so we've been a proud sponsor and supporter of their work. And we're just trying to do more to create awareness and just build some better relationships and help out with some advocacy messaging about all the support and care that we can give to the senior community. So I'll introduce Sue again, who's going to do a quick introduction to introduce Paul, and then we'll get started on Paul's presentation. So thank you. And this is being recorded. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nancy. Okay, again, I'm Sue Paul, and I'm going to introduce Paul, who has a very impressive resume.
Can't hear you.
You can't hear me. Okay.
Except for talk louder.
I'm going to introduce Paul, who has a very impressive resume. Paul Troy is the Director of Crime Victim Services for ElderServe in Louisville, Kentucky. Mr. Paul has 19 years of experience in the victim services field with an emphasis on domestic violence, sexual assault, fraud, and elder abuse. During that time, he has presented trainings at the national, regional, and state and local level, including the National Center for Victims of Crimes National Training Institute, the Southeastern Association of Area Agencies on Aging, the Kentucky Coalition Against Domestic Violence, Kentucky Association of Sexual Assault Programs Annual State Conference, the Kentucky Association for Marriage and Family Counseling, the University of Louisville Law School, the Kentucky Human Rights Commission, and also for the Louisville Metro Police Department. Paul is the father of 10-year-old triplets and enjoys music and the outdoors.
Trying to stay centered on the camera and make sure you all can hear me. So thank you for that introduction, and thanks for having us. And then thank you, Nancy and NCJW, for your all's support of us all these years. We really appreciate that. And community support is really what helps us function as an agency. So thanks again. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about scams and internet fraud and how that works, and what steps you can take to prevent it. I'm going to share my screen here so that y'all can follow along with that, and the folks who are at the temple can also follow along. So let me take care of that real quick.
Paul, I'm going to interrupt 1 second. We need you to speak up as loudly as you can. Pretend like you're in the back of a room and we're like halfway down a football field, if you could.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so like I said, we're going to talk today about telephone and internet scams. And the first thing I want to talk about is, why is this happening to seniors more prevalent, more often than to people of other age groups? And why are they seemingly being targeted? And the first thing is, we're seeing a growing increase in our senior population. Just if you look at this chart from the year 2000, where people 65 or older were, to where it is today, or where it's projected to be, seniors are going to become one of the largest groups of people in our country. So it makes sense that folks are going after them. There's also reasons that crooks go after people who are older, and that has to do with who has money in our country. So this is Willie Sutton, the famous bank robber from the 30s and 40s. And one time a reporter asked him, after he was convicted of bank robbery for I don't know how many times, really, why do you rob banks? And his answer, you all have heard this before, is because that's where the money is, right? So if you're a scammer, are you going to target a bunch of college students who are living on ramen noodles and can barely pay their rent? Or are you going to go after a group of folks who've worked their entire lives, who own their homes, who have retirement accounts and investments, and have done a lot to build up their wealth? So you're going to go after the folks who have money. And that's why people tend to target seniors specifically. So that's why we want to get this message out to help you all protect yourselves and not become a victim of another scam. Like I said, people 65 and older control 83% of the nation's wealth. That's a huge portion of our wealth, right? They're more likely to answer the phone. I grew up in an age where when the phone rang, you answered it. Didn't matter if it was dinner time or not. People nowadays don't answer their phone hardly ever. And they don't answer voicemails either. People text or TikTok or Instagram each other. I don't know what. But back when I was growing up, you answered the phone. And I think seniors are more likely than not to do it as well. I know my parents always thought, well, they wouldn't be calling if they didn't have a reason to, or if they weren't somebody we knew. Caller ID has made this more common for folks to answer the phone, because what the crooks can do, and I'm going to get to this later, is make it look like the phone number is coming from your area code, and even the same first 3 digits of your phone number. And again, when I was growing up, everybody had phones in their home, and those first 3 digits kind of indicated what neighborhood you were in. So if it was the same first 3 digits of your phone number, then you knew that they were somebody that lived in the area, or you thought they did. Well, now when you get a call and it's got those same first 3 digits, they could be calling from overseas, from another state, from anywhere, and they've done something to make it look as though their phone number is coming locally. And so that makes people more likely to answer than before as well. Many seniors live alone, and we know that social isolation is a huge risk factor for fraud and abuse. They may have physical or cognitive impairments, which could make them more susceptible to things like Medicaid scams. And they may not be as financially or tech savvy. And the tech savvy thing is really big, because this technology is evolving so fast that even law enforcement agencies are having a hard time keeping up with some of this stuff. And I'm going to show you some examples of that. So who does this thing? These are major multinational crime rings, okay? We're not talking about a guy in his basement making calls every night. They use computers to make robocalls where they can make literally thousands of calls in a minute. And they've got call centers set up, much like you would think of a call center for your insurance company, or a tech support center or something like that. Banks of people on the phone, and as soon as somebody answers that phone, that call goes to a scammer who has a sophisticated script that he reads from. It has answers to whatever objections you might make. They use the same techniques that salespeople use to try and get you to open up your money or open up your wallet or give them information. The same exact techniques. We're going to talk about some of those. So, like I said, multi-internet or international crime rings. This is an article from Interpol, 20,000 arrests in a year-long crackdown. And this was on every continent. They seized $153 million of illicit funds, and arrested 20,000 people, 21,000 people. That is enormous, enormous crime ring going on. And these are people who are laundering the money, people who are setting up the phone lines, and then just people working in call centers. So it's everybody from the top to the bottom. All right, so I talked a little bit about caller ID spoofing, and that's where they can disguise their phone number and make it look as though they're calling from a different number. So this is going to be an example of that. Do you all know what caller ID spoofing is, besides what I just told you? Do you understand how that works? All right, so we'll play something real quick. Hopefully it works for me.
Sort of thing like money. How good of you to come and see me. And I'm pretty young one.
Oh, Red, how you do run on teasing a country girl like me?
Thank heavens you're not in rags. I'm tired of seeing women in rags. Turn around. Oh, you look good enough. What?
Thank you, I've been doing very well.
Do you all remember the Carol Burnett show? Okay.
What brings you to Terra?
You fixing you. Stop it. I love you. That gown is gorgeous.
Thank you. I saw the window and I just couldn't resist.
I didn't show it to anybody,
All right.
but I did show it to Harvey. He saw it in my dress.
So
Because I didn't want him to crack up, wouldn't have been.
So I love that clip, and I kind of use it as an excuse to play it. That's a spoof, right? It's taking something real, the real clip from Gone with the Wind, and it's changing it a little bit, this time for comedic effect. Caller ID spoofing is similar. They take a real phone number and they change it to something that you are more likely to answer. So it may look as though it's coming from the IRS. Your caller ID may show up IRS or Internal Revenue, Washington, D.C. It may look like it's coming from your next door neighbor. If they know your friends and family and know that their phone numbers are, they can make it look as though your daughter's calling you or your sister or anybody that's in your phone list. If they've somehow gotten a hold of that information, they can spoof the number to make it look like anything they want. And so, like I said, these companies or these crime rings are overseas. Well, if you got a call and it looked like it was coming from India or Nigeria or Jamaica, which are 3 huge locations for this crime, you're not going to answer it. But when you get a call that looks like it's coming from Washington, D.C. and it looks official, you're going to pick up the phone. And so I want you all to be aware that that caller ID cannot be trusted. Anybody can download an app like this called Spoof Card. This one costs a little bit of money, but it's not like it's $10 or something. It's not very expensive. And I could use my phone to make it look like I was calling from anywhere I wanted. So that's how easy this technology is to get and use.
Criminal Investigation Division of IRS, how may I help you?
Yes, I received a call from somebody from this number saying that I needed to give them a call back from the IRS.
I'm looking for Mr. Cole White.
This is.
Hello, sir, how are you doing today?
I'm fine. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on.
Sir, my name is Michael Jennings from Criminal Investigation Division of IRS.
Okay.
The reason behind my call is to inform you that we received an arrest warrant case filed under your name. So did you receive any phone call from your local police department till now?
I haven't yet. What's going on?
Are you trying to say you're not been aware about the situation happening under your name?
I'm not aware of anything. Please tell me what's happening. What's going on?
All right, Mr. Cole, in that case, I want you to grab a pen and a piece of paper so that you can write down some information.
Absolutely.
You ready?
I'm ready.
First of all, let me start with the case ID. It starts with C as in Charlie.
Okay, so that goes on where she gives him information and then tries to get information out of him. And I don't know if y'all caught it when she gave her name, she said her name was Michael Jennings or something like that, which did not sound like a Michael to me, but nevertheless, he called that number back because it said IRS, and that's Criminal Investigations Division. They have a warrant. Did you hear it mention warrant and law enforcement? That is a really common tactic that scammers use, is to make you all feel threatened and afraid that you're going to get in trouble or get arrested. And it's the same the same type of tactic, it's hard to say, that a used car salesman, for example, will use. They don't want you walking off the lot for anything, because they know if you walk off the lot to think about it, you're not going to buy. And so they're going to try and keep you there no matter what. I got somebody else looking at this car. If you don't act now, it probably won't be here tomorrow. Really, this is the best offer you're going to get. Tomorrow, it's going to be more expensive. You probably want to go ahead and sign the papers now. And they're going to push and push and push. High pressure sales tactics, right? The same thing the scammers are doing. There's some YouTube videos out there. There's people who record these calls. That's where I got this one from and put them on YouTube. And there's some of them out there where they literally will have the sound of a siren in the background going. And that's to get your adrenaline going and make you afraid. And why would they do that? When people's adrenaline are up, when your adrenaline is up and you're worried or afraid, you don't think well, okay? You don't use the parts of your brain that use logic and reason, and instead you use that part of your brain that deals with fight or flight, right? So adrenaline makes it hard for you to make good decisions. And that's why high pressure sales tactics work. That's why inducing fear in somebody to get them to make a decision works. So if you get a call claiming to be from the police department the sheriff, the IRS telling you you've got a warrant, you don't. They don't call you and tell you they've got a warrant for you. They show up at your house and arrest you. That's how it works. Okay, so think about that. If I'm the police and I call and I say, we're gonna come pick you up in 10 minutes, how many crooks do you think are waiting around for them to come get them, right? They're gonna take off. So if somebody calls you threatening to arrest you, it's not real. If you think it might be real, or if you have concerns, hang up the phone, look the number up yourself, and then call. Now here's another tip. They're gonna call you at hours where those offices are closed. There were calls going around about the sheriffs from the Louisville Sheriff or Jefferson County Sheriff's Department threatening people with this jury duty scam, saying that you missed a jury duty summons, you've got a $1,500 fine, we're gonna come arrest you right now. And they would call after 6 o'clock at night and on the weekends, because it's a lot harder to call the Sheriff's Department and say, do I have a warrant for real? If it's after hours. So that's another red flag. If they're calling you late at night or on the weekend, it's probably not legit. All right. This is called the grandparent scam, and it involves somebody calling you out of the blue who may have gotten some information about you, maybe a little bit from, for example, Facebook. Is anybody on Facebook? People share lots of stuff on Facebook, right? So if you went on my Facebook page, you might find that I went to a certain high school, graduated around this time, and then from that high school, you can go find classmates of mine. You can find my relatives. People can poke around and find out a lot of information about you if you don't have your privacy settings really tightly controlled. So you may get a call out of the blue from someone who has a little bit of information from you, but not much, telling you that they're your grandchild, neighbor, friend, somebody who's in trouble and needs help right away. And you'll notice in this one, they kind of fish for information at the very beginning. They don't give specific information right away. They wait until the person who answers the phone gives them that information.
Hi, Grandpa. Hi. You know who this is? Randy? Yeah. What's the matter? I've been in a car wreck. Oh, hey, Dad.
It sure sounded like him on the phone. I'd have sworn a stack of Bibles it was him.
Odell and Dorothy Shanafelt of Portland, Oregon, thought they were talking to their grandson, Randy, and it sounded like he needed help.
What do you think, Dad? My ribs and my jaw. That's why I'm talking the way I am.
That's why I don't sound right.
To drive to a Western Union and wire him $550 that he said he needed to get his car out of the tow yard.
We'd do anything to help any of our grandkids.
He even convinced them not to tell anyone else in the family.
Grandma, I don't want mom. I don't want nobody to know. We won't tell your mother that.
How's the scam work? First, the con artist searches the telephone book looking.
All right, so you notice at the beginning, he didn't give a name. He didn't say, this is Randy. He just said, hey, Grandpa. And the person answered the phone said, is this Randy? Because it didn't quite sound right to him. Yeah, it's Randy. And then don't tell mom. Did you see that one? Because they don't want to call, hanging up the phone and saying, was Randy in a car wreck? And mom's going, no, Randy's sitting right next to me. Randy's fine. So don't tell mom. So you've got somebody keeping a secret, driving to Western Union to transfer money. A lot of times the scammers will try and keep you on the phone while you drive there. Okay. And the reason again is they don't want you to check out their story. They want you to hang up and think for a second. Why is the IRS telling me to go to Walgreens and buy iTunes cards? How many of y'all use iTunes cards to pay your bills? To pay your fines in court? To keep from going to jail? How many of y'all use iTunes cards, period? Right. This is the favorite tool of scammers. These are used normally by people to buy toy or games, songs, movies, that kind of stuff on the internet. That's what you can do with an iTunes card. You can't even go to Amazon and spend it on real things. All you can buy is virtual stuff. So download a song, download a game, that kind of thing. But they're real popular among kids. I've given them to my kids for their birthday. They have a blast with them, right? Well, scammers can use these somehow to turn them into money. And basically they just resell them for half the amount that they're worth. And so they'll ask you to go to Walgreens or Kroger or someplace that sells these things and buy $2,000 worth of iTunes cards, because you can get them in $1,500 or $500 increments. And clerks will sell them to people without batting an eye, $2,000 worth of these cards, and then go to your car and scratch off the back and read a number to them. And as soon as you've read that number to them, that money is gone, which is why they use these prepaid cards. They also will sometimes ask for prepaid Visa cards or MasterCards, or a prepaid, something called a green dot card. You all know what that is? Me neither. I had to look it up. I started seeing these police reports over and over again, green dot cards, and I had to finally look it up. And it's basically a prepaid card that you can give money to somebody on. So if I wanted to give a gift to my kids, I could give them $25 on a green dot card that they could spend online. Well, a crook takes that, gets the numbers, they've now got the money, and then they resell that value to somebody else for half of that, which, you know, is not a great margin, but they didn't have to do anything but except make a bunch of phone calls, right? So it's a big business and they make a lot of money. You cannot pay any fines at the IRS or anywhere else with an iTunes card, period. They will never ask you to use this. That is a huge red flag. And just for emphasis, I said it again here. All right, let's shift gears for a second and talk about tech support scams. For anybody that's online and may go to a website that you're not familiar with, sometimes you'll get something that pops up that looks similar to this. Maybe something that says it's from Microsoft support and they've detected a virus on your computer. Click here to get rid of it. A little pop-up window that looks like that. And if you click on that, it's going to take you to a scammer who has a website that looks like Microsoft or Apple or whatever you're using. Looks like their tech support website, right? It's very easy to make a website that looks similar to another one. You'll go to that website and they'll ask to log into your computer so that they can fix whatever the problem is. And just, you know, confession time, I've done this with tech support folks, mainly at my job, because I know who's doing it. And that is a way to fix a computer. But that's because I had a phone conversation that I initiated with our tech support folks and said, hey, I've got this issue. And they said, can we log in and check it out? And we did. Do not ever let somebody get onto your computer that you don't know unless you contacted them from a known website, okay? So if you get an email that says you need to go down here to fix something on your computer, see who it's from, go to Google that person, and then look for it, okay? Don't respond to emails. Don't respond to pop-up windows. These are scams every time, every time. All right. So again, this talks a little bit about what you might get. They'll request remote access to your computer and they'll download all kinds of information. If you use your computer to pay your bills, they've got credit card information, they've got accounts, passwords, lots of stuff they can get. They can install spyware on your computer that will report back to them information as you use your computer. There's something called a keystroke tracker that will record everything you type on your keyboard and then send it to somebody else, and it'll send it to them just like you typed it, or they'll reformat it so you can actually read it. And so that's where they pick up passwords, account numbers, all kinds of personal information. So again, the tech support scams are really common and really dangerous. So how do we protect ourselves? We're going to wrap up pretty quickly. So I want to go through this kind of fast, but I want to make sure y'all get this. So again, never give out your personal information over your phone or the internet. You do not make payments with prepaid gift cards or wire transfers. That's another one. Go to Western Union and transfer money to me. Don't do that. The IRS doesn't take wire transfers. You can't pay your fines with a wire transfer. Don't do that. If somebody calls you and you answer, hang up the phone. They're fishing for information from the very moment they dial that number. If nobody answers, that number goes to another list. And if it keeps coming up, nobody answers, eventually they stop calling it. If somebody answers, it goes to this list. If somebody answers and gives them information or money, it goes to a list that gets sold to other scammers, okay? So it's just like telemarketing. They keep lists of numbers that are good and numbers that are bad and numbers of people who will give them money or buy whatever it is they're selling or whatever. Don't be those people. Hang up. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. If it sounds crazy, like I paid my taxes, why are they making me do this? It's not real. So again, trust your instincts. Don't get duped into something like that. And then use sophisticated passwords. There have been lots of data breaches at big companies, and they've been able to find, using that information, the stuff that gets leaked. People who do research on this find, what are the most commonly used passwords? And the top 10, you would not believe how ridiculously easy the top 10 passwords are. It's things like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or the word password, or the person's name. So don't be that person. Use a sophisticated password. But Paul, everybody wants a password, and some of them make me change it, and I can't keep track of all this. And you also shouldn't use the same password for everyone. Okay, so here's a trick that works for me, is I come up with a sentence that's the same for every website I go to, and the only thing I change is the word credit card. And then I use the first letter of each word in that sentence as my password. So I change the word credit card to email. I change the word credit card to LG&E if I'm paying my bill there. I change that word to Citibank if I'm paying my credit card bill. And so my passwords are TIMCCPW1234, for example. That's not a word. It's got a capital letter. It's got numbers. Sometimes they'll ask you to put in a dash or an uncommon symbol. Make sure you do that. That's important. The longer your password is, the better it is, because it's harder to guess. So you can do this and change have a different password for every website, but it's still easy to remember, right? This is my utility password, and then go. As far as your phone, you can protect yourself using apps that are free that you can download and will block unwanted calls, will detect spam calls, and will detect potential fraud. Each cell phone, or the 4 big cell phone providers, all provide a free version. So if you're a T-Mobile, if you're AT&T, if you're a Verizon person, look for these apps, download them. They work for both iOS and Android, so Apple and Android, and they're free. Every one of these apps has a paid version that's not very expensive. Some of them are like an extra $3 a month. They have more bells and whistles. I don't think they're necessary. I'm actually using Haya right now because I wanted to test it out for a while. And it has a paid version, and I don't see why I would ever need it because it tells me everything I need to know. And it's really good. It pops up and says, fraud detected, spam call. It tells me where the number's really coming from because my personal caller ID will say Washington, and Haya will tell me that it's coming from overseas. So it works really well. It was free, quick, easy to download, easy to set up. We really recommend using things like this. Here's some warning signs if you've got folks in your life that you're concerned about, some things to look for. Any sudden or unexplained changes in their behavior or their spending habits in particular. So if you see things that are missing, like their bank statements are missing, their retirement account information is missing, they can't seem to find, they have a sheet somewhere where they had written down all their passwords, which you're not supposed to do, but I know I've done it, that's missing. So documents are turned up missing, bills aren't being paid, their appearance changes. So you may have a friend who's always well put together, they go to the salon once a week and get their hair done, and then suddenly they're not going as often, their clothes are getting a little raggedy, you notice things are missing from their home. These are warning signs that there may be some issues. So it's important to ask about that. The sudden appearance of somebody new in their life or a new signatory for an account. So suddenly they've got somebody who's a neighbor's friend who's mowing the lawn, but now they're kind of driving them to the bank. And not only they're driving them to the bank, but then they're taking them shopping. And then you're noticing that bills aren't getting paid. The person may have gotten a hold of their debit card and made a bunch of charges on it, may have just conned them into giving them money, may have told them a sob story that they've given them access. Anyway, a new person suddenly appearing in somebody's life is a red flag. Again, unpaid bills, missing money, obviously. Those are all important things to look for. And ask people, if you're worried about your friends, your loved ones, if you're worried because you're noticing the bills aren't getting paid, ask what's going on. Are you having any trouble? How can I help? One thing that I always do when I get here, and I forgot, is let me ask you all something. Have you all gotten calls like I've talked about on your phone? These fake calls telling you you've won a cruise, the IRS. How about the auto warranty call? That's the biggest one in 2020. Your extended warranty on your car is getting ready to expire. That's a scam. So everybody in this room has gotten calls like that. And if you've got somebody that you're concerned about, one way that you may want to broach the subject is to talk about that. Oh, I got this call the other day. They said they were from the IRS and they were threatening me with a warrant. They were going to arrest me. God, it's unbelievable. And then I look at my caller ID and they're not even calling from the IRS. They're calling from overseas. You know, and then you can talk about the apps that we've discussed. That might broach the subject in a way that gets people talking, because this is something that people don't want to talk about. It's private. Most people keep their financial information private. It's a hard or embarrassing thing to admit if you've been a victim of a scam. Nobody wants to raise their hand and say, yeah, you know, I thought it was my grandson and I sent him $2,000 and he was fine the whole time. So broach it in a way that expresses empathy and openness, and try and ask about it, because that's really important. Does anybody have any questions?
No, but I do have something to share.
Okay, can you hang on 1 second? Somebody here in the audience had a question?
On the internet, when you were talking about it, it looks like it's from Microsoft or someplace, and they tell you to call them back, or they want to talk to you. And it says, don't turn off your computer. I turned mine off. Does that hurt anything?
So the question was about if somebody call, or if you get a pop-up claiming to be from Microsoft and telling you you've got a virus, a lot of times it'll say, don't turn off your computer. And she turns her computer off and wants to know if that's bad. That's actually one of the best things you can do. So an IT person will tell you, if you've downloaded a virus, the best thing to do is shut your computer down immediately and get somebody who knows what they're doing to look at it. Okay, so turn it off, take the battery out, disconnect it from the internet, whatever you need to do. Put it in a dark closet, close the door, leave the house. No, turn your computer off is a great thing. And then I bet 9 times out of 10, when you turn it back on, it works fine, right? Yeah, it's the website. But if you're worried about downloading something, or that you may have downloaded something, shut everything down and get off the internet. That's important. Same thing with your phone. It's never too late to hang up on somebody. They'll do their best to keep you talking. But if you start getting suspicious, hang up, hang up. That's bottom line, is the best thing I can tell you, is hang up. And then number 2, take your time. Okay, don't let people rush you, make you afraid that something bad's going to happen. Take a deep breath, check things out, and don't let them rush you. All right, so somebody at the temple had a question?
No, but I thank you for sharing that about the car warranties.
Yes.
I've owned cars in the past, but the funny thing about it, both my wife and I are blind, and we really laugh about getting this thing about our car warranty.
I understand. Well, the IRS one is, a lot of folks will get the call from the IRS and they don't pay taxes, you know? They may be retired or on a fixed income. Lots of people I talk to don't file their taxes every year because they don't need to. And they'll get this call saying, you didn't file 2 years ago and we've got a warrant for your arrest. And they're like, but I don't need to file. What's going on? Or they know that they did file. So yeah, they'll call and try anything and everything under the sun, whether you're blind or not. I have a good friend whose last name happens to be Park, which is a very common Korean name. And she's been targeted by people who are using some sort of Asian American angle to try and scam her because they think she's Korean. And she gets these calls asking her to donate to some cause in Korea that she has no idea why, except that her last name happens to be Park. And she was born in Kentucky. Her parents are like 7th generation Kentuckians, never even been to Asia. You know, there's no reason to get this except for the fact that her last name is common in Korea as well. So they'll try anything. One thing they'll do is look at stories that are in the news and follow that. So you see lots of the tax scams in April and May around tax time when people are thinking about taxes. You see lots of charity scams around Christmas time and Hanukkah, because that's when people start to donate to causes. You'll see lots of stuff happening at the end of the year or the beginning of the year having to do with Medicaid. saying that there's been changes with your Medicaid plan. You need to update this. They're fishing for information from you. And so Medicaid doesn't call you and ask for information from you. They should have that information. And if you're not sure, hang up, pull your card out, or look up the number and call them back and say, somebody called me asking about getting a new card. Do I really need to do that? And then go through the steps with them. But somebody calling you out of the blue saying you need a new card, no, hang up, always. All right, so.
Did you say that you got a copy of this that can be shared?
Yeah, I think they've recorded it, and I can share my PowerPoint if you'd like. And then there were some handouts. Are those available?
So all of the recordings, the slideshow, and then Paul was gracious enough to give us a bunch of handouts. We will post them to our websites. We'll share them with Dara and with Sarah so that everybody can have those. And we have a follow-up session coming on October 14th, where we're talking about credit card scam, I believe.
Fine. Yeah, so financial investments, credit cards. It's going to be less telephone and internet and more focused on things like home improvement. That's kind of a catch-all, but yeah. So the next session will involve things that not involving the internet and phone. Yeah.
I'm not familiar with ElderServe. There are many of a certain age who are not very proficient with all the digital gadgets out. Do
That's
you
me.
provide any instructors if we set up sessions
To teach you how to.
to get us more familiar with using all the digital things that are out there?
We don't do that sort of thing. I know that there's adult ed classes that do it. I'm not sure where else. Maybe the library offers something like that.
The library sometimes.
Yeah, we don't. That's not something we do. We have a social services program that helps seniors they do case management and help them with things like getting their utilities set up, or if they need assistance paying their utilities or housing. We help with those sorts of things. We have the crime victim services program. We have a health and wellness program that does active day stuff. And then we have a volunteer program that contacts seniors every day. It's called Telecare. And it's just a way to check in and make sure everybody's okay. During the pandemic, that was a real important lifeline for folks. But we've been doing that for years. And it's a way that sometimes, unfortunately, I get clients because the telecare person has called and the caller tells them that there's been there's something going on. Maybe their grandson is causing them problems, or they've been scammed. And then the next thing I know, I've got a referral. But we also just check and see how their health is and make sure that they're getting out, see if they need help with their activities of daily life, anything like that. So it's a really important lifeline for folks.
If we go to your website, we'll learn about all these services.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yep. And it's ElderServe, all one word, .org, I believe.
ElderServe, it says .org.
Yeah, that's our email. I imagine that's how it shows up on the internet. I can look it up. I should know what it is, but I just always go to it because I've got it saved. It's kind of like my phone number. I can't remember that either. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Paul, we've got a question here.
Okay.
Go ahead, Marta.
Hi, I'm reading the Paul Troy Senior Crime Advocate. Is it the case where if something happens to one of us, we can contact you?
Yes, absolutely. That's why my number's up there. You can contact me directly. The phone number that you see is my direct number, and that's my email. You can also just call our general line and tell them what's going on. They'll transfer it to me, but 736-3829 is the best way to reach me for sure.
And is that complimentary, or do we pay you for your services?
No, we are a free program. We don't charge for anything that we do. We are funded through a federal grant called the Victims of Crime Act. And we offer these services for free. And then we have some, we can help people with getting things like their locks changed, windows repaired if somebody's broken into their home, if they need help paying bills because they may have been scammed. That's something that we can assist with. We do a lot of stuff with helping people get to court, so transportation, but all of our services are free, yes.
That's super.
Great, thank you.
All right, anything else?
Do you have an office that you
say that?
We do. So we're located at 28th and Broadway in the Russell neighborhood. We're at 631 South 28th Street. So way down in the West End. That's where our Oak and Acorn program is, which is a senior program along with a daycare. So it's an intergenerational system. And then that's where our offices are located. We used to be downtown in the Atria building, and they fixed that up and raised our rent. So we moved, consolidated into one building. So it works pretty well for us, actually. Yes, ma'am.
You saying you have a program where you can catch these people?
We don't catch people. No, we just help the victims after they've been scammed. So we're not, like, we get reports from the police and we work with the police, but we're not law enforcement and we don't go after them. And a lot of folks will ask me, like, what can be done after they've been scammed? And I'm going to be real honest with you. The answer is not much. It's very difficult to recover this money because, like I said, a lot of these folks are operating overseas, or finding out where they were is almost impossible. It happens, but it's rare. And usually when it happens, it's because somebody's been scammed repeatedly and the scammers start to get kind of careless, and they eventually might give up information that allows the police to find them. So there's a woman, for example, in Elizabethtown recently, and the Attorney General's office helped, and she had been scammed out of $40,000 over the course of about a year. And the scammers would just ask for $1,500 here, $1,000 there. And at first it was all over the phone. And then finally they got comfortable enough and they asked her to do a Western Union transfer to a Walmart in Chicago. And when the person went to go pick it up, they got pictures of them at the Walmart and were able to find out who they were, arrested them, recovered some of their money, but not much. So it's really, really hard to recover any money once this happens. The first thing that we're doing is trying to prevent anything in the future from happening. So we'll talk about ways to make sure no new accounts are being opened on their credit cards, and stuff that I'm going to get into in the next one. But as far as once you've been scammed, recovering your money is really, really difficult. So that's one of the reasons we work as much as we can on prevention.
And there's no way to get it.
It's really difficult. I mean, if you read,
Keep doing this?
I'm sorry.
They can just keep doing it? Yeah.
So there's steps that are being taken trying to prevent it, but a lot of that has to do with preventing these call centers from being able to call into the United States the way they are. So it's on the federal level trying to use the FCC and other things to protect people from the calls coming in from overseas. But like I said, the technology is so sophisticated that's very, very difficult to prevent and stop. These folks are in a call center somewhere around the world, and like I said, it looks like it's coming from your next door neighbor. And they can move that call center wherever they want, and the phone number still looks like it's coming from your next door neighbor. And so they may figure out they're calling from this country in Jamaica, and by the time the authorities get there, everything has been moved electronically to some other location, and they just find an empty office with a bunch of computers sitting around. So it's really, really difficult to recover the money and to prevent it. So we want to prevent it at this level so people don't become victims again. The feds are working at the other level.
I get calls all the time from Amazon that I owe so much money. I've never ordered anything, and a lot of them,
It's a scam.
I do not have an account there.
I'd never answer a phone number that I don't know.
And that's great advice. So somebody in the audience, for the folks at the temple that may not be able to hear for the recording, somebody said, I never answer the phone from a number that I don't know. And that is absolutely great advice. That's some of the best advice I can give, because if it's important, they're going to leave you a message. Okay. And then you can call them back, verify who it is, take the steps that you need to call them back. But these scammers aren't going to leave you a message, or you're going to get a message that's a pre-recorded call and you're going to know that it's fake. So don't answer the phone from numbers you're not familiar with. And again, even if you do know the number, because of the spoofing thing, still be cautious until you verify. If they're asking for personal information, that should be raising all kinds of red flags. Okay. So I want y'all to be aware of that. All right. I think we're at our limit. Well, I really appreciate y'all having me here. Again, we'll be here in 2 weeks. Okay, I know it's on my calendar. So I got a lot of things on my calendar with triplets, but anyway, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. And y'all been great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paul. No, you already had something.
So I put my eggs, I need a witness.
Oh, my God.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank Nancy and Sue and Vera.
Yeah.
Yes.
That got all over your hands.
Yeah.